Shalom, this is Mary Omni from the World Government House of King David, Holy Covenant Constitutional Enforcer. This is a Republic Notice. The title of this Republic Notice is called Whites Crippled on So-Called Black Welfare Queens. Whites crippled on so-called black welfare queens. The whole propaganda and stereotypical Babylon, which is also known as Mystery Babylon, is not a mystery. Babylon is public Mystery Babylon, also called Mystery Babylon. This public Mystery Babylon holds the majority of white and corporate doctrine, volunteer immigrants to consent to debt and theft. Now, these consenters to debt and theft have been using reverse psychology on blacks who they feel was vulnerable for a long time. See, they know that the media has ganged up and used this power, its nuclear power propaganda against blacks. They know the white majority have trampled blacks and have used blacks in every state and so-called state rights and this rights and their cubicles where they could exert their little white supremacy along in their states where they could use their police to exert white supremacy. So they have all this weaponry, and the weaponry was as powerful as they thought, because King Yeshua told us that we wrestle not with flesh and blood, but we wrestle with principalities and spirits of darkness. Okay? So these whites, public Mystery Babylon, and majority white skin, had their dark principalities to uphold all this, and so to hide behind the propaganda. Now this 2012 beyond, which means we're in the year 2013 and past the cosmic alignment. And they still perpetrating this fraud and catering to the globalist media of blacks being welfare recipients and living on the system and living on the dole and needing affirmative action and needing this and needing that and, you know, being lazy and not wanting to work for their keep and getting free Obama phones, and you know, it just goes on and on and on and on, because they're the dung fuel of the globalists. And as the dung fuel of the globalists, they're the foundation of all evil that has gained power in this country. And the reason they're the dung fuel is because they rather would believe the propaganda of blacks being on welfare and perpetrate it, because a lot of them is more evil than dumb. So their evil perpetrates this stereotype, and they so-called put blacks in their place by joining forces with the propaganda of the globalist media and the satanic regimes of dark principalities, always talking about black women are welfare queens and they got the highest single parent rate and they are lazy and don't want to work for their keep. And, you know, all this is the propaganda that is used to cover up whites being crippled on this so-called black welfare queen 14th birthrights. So if she is a welfare queen and you need her birthrights, then what the hell are you? If she is a welfare queen and you need her contractual supreme wealth benefit rights, then what the hell are you? If the black baby is illegitimate, born from this 14th constitutionalized woman who couldn't consent to even go in the Constitution, therefore it's a non-consented 14th she inherited, and therefore it distinguishes her as being separate from all who volunteered to come to America, because she didn't volunteer to come to America. So she's a non-consented 14th, and it came to her first so that it would stay non-consented. So them being crippled is them having to steal and still suck the titty of the black woman. They never got off that titty of the black woman. And they mad because they need that titty that they never could wean themselves off of. And so they accuse her of being a welfare recipient to her own constitutionalized wealth. So, you know, so it's a so-called, she's the welfare, she's the divorce rate, but she's the most married woman on the planet. She's married to the land, she's married to a son, she's married to the black man, she's married to King Jesus, she's married to God Almighty in a holy covenant. And they're so jealous that even at this late date, they think blacks are buying this propaganda of her being so-called welfare queen, still calling themselves keeping a slave in a slave place, because a lot of them want to still assume blacks have the mentality that whites gave them something, that they gave them freedom, that they gave them this, trying to take superiority over King Yeshua, who gave his people his wealth, his inheritance, okay? We're King Yeshua people. King Yeshua is the only one that ever freed us. Yes, men gained power because King Yeshua gave men power, white, black, and other, to die in a civil war. So, you know, to try to degrade this black woman as being unimportant is to degrade all those who died in the Civil War. You better take a look at that latest movie called Lincoln by Steven Spielberg. And, you know, I think it was done pretty good, although I don't really condone Hollywood in most cases. The movie called Lincoln shows you that this black woman was so important. This black woman was so important that thousands and thousands and thousands died to constitutionalize this woman who couldn't consent. And they said the union will live forever, because if she didn't consent to be the supremacy clause, then the supremacy clause is non-consented to all, because she is the non-consenter. So this so-called welfare queen propaganda is just them crying over spilled milk, knowing that they lost as the Confederates. They lost a long time ago, and they was allowed to stew in their loss and to war against the Constitution to prove who they are, those that were never worthy. So they joined globalist bankers and a globalist evil and consented to every evil for 100 years of an all-white sentence, just to pretend and call the black woman a so-called lazy welfare recipient who wombs built America 500 years and was here 200 and 300 years and 400 and 500 years before most immigrants even came to America. So she is the true Americana. She is the true Statue of Liberty. She is the true constitutionality of this country. So white's so-called black welfare queen is their intention of calling the Constitution a welfare queen. So anytime they calling blacks a welfare and lazy, they calling the Constitution lazy, because I dare you to prove you can separate blacks from the constitutionality. They tried to do it. They couldn't even do it in the 1900s. And with the 15th Amendment, you know, they really was sealed outside of the republic in not being able to do nothing, because that's a built-in supreme vote automated, which means it don't mean man. King Yeshua automates it as non-consent supremacy vote by amendment, not by no acts that the corporate doctrines use to try to think that they can overcome amendments, so then they can sit back and be the dung fuel and talk about blacks or welfare recipients with constitutional amendments. How silly do they sound at this late date after the alignment of the cosmic? Yeah, but like I said, they had their dark principalities helping them, but guess what? the dark principalities are falling, okay? And you're starting to sound silly because truth is being revealed, and it ain't much longer you're going to be able to suck the phallus of the globalist media propaganda and of your globalist masters with this black so-called on welfare with their own wealth that is constitutionalized, that you can't get around, and non-consented to the world. So do your last minute trampling and your last minute quirping like dogs, media drone trying to hold on to some dung fuel that putting you as whites in captivity. Because those who consented to trample the Constitution, those who consented that they want to benefit off of birthrights, that's dealing with a remedy for slavery and saying they didn't want blacks to have a remedy unless they had the right to steal it and trample it. Okay, you don't want no remedy for captivity, which means you consent to captivity. Okay, as a crippled in every way, shape, or form. You are crippled, and you have been crippled on that black woman titty so long that you are spewing the results of knowing you're crippled. You're knowing you're crippled because thou dost protest too much in this propaganda of blacks being on welfare. Thou dost protest too much, which means, in truth, you're evil. You're evil, and your chickens have come home to roost, and you know it, and the world knows it, and the globalists knows it, and the bankers knows it, and everybody who see you knows it. You're being stripped naked. This is Mary Omni from the House of King David. Shalom.